Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows or adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episodes of The Flash, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D, and iZombie. So in this episode of The Flash, kind of opens up with some very interesting stuff and concepts that I don't know, it never really crossed my mind too much. I guess it makes sense. Like the fact is of breaking Barry's speed down into formulas, because at the beginning he's reading all these different books, super fast. And I like that special effect. It's like you see the reflection in his eye. You see like his, you see the speed in his eyes as he's like reading the pages of the books really fast. I thought that was kind of cool. And then he's like actually breaking down his speed into a formula, breaking it down scientifically. All these different books, trying to find anything that'll help him increase his speed. And Caitlin even explains how the speedster speed kind of works. She kind of broke it down. Is that like when they're running, it's just their legs are moving at a very fast speed. They're running. It's just their legs moving at a very fast speed that causes them to run. And now the reason why, because actually Barry, Reverse Flash, and Zoom all run at the same speed, but the difference between them is the time that their legs spin up in the air, like when they're lifting their legs up to run. The time between that going up and coming back down to the ground when they're running is a shorter amount of time. They spend less time with their feet in the air than Barry does, which comparatively, they're at least 30% faster than him. Which is kind of like, wow, that's so interesting. So Barry ended up getting an idea from Wally, interestingly enough, that basically if he wants to get faster, he has to talk to someone who understands being a speedster. And the only other person he really knows he could talk to is Eobard, but Eobard's dead. So he gets in his head, how about I time travel back to a point where I still thought, Eobard was Wells. That way, he'll think, if I ask him questions about increasing my speed, he'll just simply think it's me asking questions about trying to stop, him, the man in yellow. Everyone's kind of like, is that really the best decision? Because even, Wells is kind of like against, because he's like, you make one mistake. Like, how many times have you time traveled? He's like, I've done it a couple times. And Cisco even brings up, it's like, this is his first time purposely time traveling, because every other time he's ever time traveled, it's just been him running at such a fast speed that he ended up punching a hole and ended up going back in time. It's never 100% on purpose. This would be his first time purposely time traveling. So, Wells is like, you mess around, you end up changing like one thing, the present that you come back to might be drastically different. But Barry's like, I have to do it if I want to get faster. So he ends up traveling back to a time. It's when it's exactly when they went up against Hartley, the guy who kind of uses sound waves as a weapon, uses his gloves. Basically, I really like that part where Barry, because Barry kind of messed up and went a little too far back, so he ended up having to knock himself out, his past self out. And that was kind of interesting, because like his past self saw him, and then basically it turns into a little fight between the two Barrys, and they're just like dashing all over the place. He's like knocking the syringe that Barry's going to use to knock his past self out with, and he did, eventually he did knock him out. And it was very interesting because he actually to me, it never would have crossed my mind. It's like, oh yeah, change the symbol on your chest, because the symbol on his chest is different. So, but he ends up taking down Hartley. He even obviously he's going to change some things. So he had Hartley take out those, basically his hearing aids that would basically, they help kind of keep the noise down for him, because basically here's like a piercing loud noise without his hearing aids. Basically they were like little, he was going to use them as an explosion, as a way of getting away. Barry obviously knew what was going to happen, so he changed that. And then he basically is kind of, he ends up kind of fooling Wells for a little while. He even sees Eddie, which kind of throws him back for a little bit. And Joe is like, you told me you were okay with this whole Eddie and Iris thing, and it's like, he's like, yeah, I'm totally over that, but it's just him. He's seeing Eddie, and it's just, it's weird seeing him alive again. He even does this neat thing because Iris is kind of, obviously she kind of accidentally went on a date with her new boss, and Barry's like, it's kind of a good thing you're dating, but she's like, I feel bad because she feels like she's kind of cheating on Eddie. And, seeing Eddie again, it just, I don't know, it kind of brings it home that, it just reminds Barry even more that he's not around anymore. And so Barry wanted to do something for Iris. So basically he had Eddie, he recorded a message of Eddie, talking. He's like, say like a message, like you're going to send a message to Iris and pretend like it's going to be like the last thing you could ever say to her. It was a very beautiful thing. I mean, you don't see what it is until the very end of the episode, but it's a very beautiful thing. Because Barry didn't even tell Iris that, like, oh, I went back in time and got this. He just pretended like he had it the whole time, and he just kind of found the footage. And it just, I don't know, it kind of breaks your heart. And it's just like, she's like, I love you, and she's crying, and it's just like, man, that sucks. But, back to the situation, when he went to ask Wells was going to help him because it did seem like he fooled him, but he didn't quite fool him because Wells kind of figured it out by the way Barry was acting. Which he was warned to be careful because the Wells from Earth 2 had warned him, is like, Eobard has studied you for like 15 years, probably more so, but he studied you for a long time, so he knows you, So he's going to know that you're not the Barry of that time. And he ended up finding out. And he's about to kill Barry because it's like, the fact that you're here means that my plan didn't work. I didn't get to go home. And he's about to vibrate his hands, and he's about to kill Barry. When Barry's like, no, stop. You made it home. So just, you made it home. I just came back here because, the singularity. He tells him that singularity opened up when he tried to stop with the whole thing that basically what happened in season 1. He left out the fact that Eobard dies, obviously. He lies about that. And Eobard's like, well, you shouldn't have told me that, because now I know that the future you right now is no longer needed. All I need is this present day Barry, and he's about to kill him again when Barry slyly goes, well, you didn't think I planned for this, but I did. I have a letter that's going to be sent to, past me, and explains everything, especially about who you are, if anything happens to me. I was like, that's pretty smart of you, Barry. I wasn't expecting something like that, which is, I know it. You kind of shortchange Barry sometimes because of some of the dumb things he does, but that was pretty smart of him. And at the same time, they're fighting up against this creature known as a time wraith. Basically, Eobard basically says it's a thing that comes after people who time travel and don't know what the hell they're doing. It's kind of very interesting. To me, I kind of parallel it on a slight scale, kind of a nerdy scale, to the Dahaka from Prince of Persia 2. Granted, that was kind of like its own different thing, but that was kind of the closest thing I can compare it to. Basically, Wales says it's something all speedsters kind of are afraid of running across, especially if you're specifically because if you time travel. At first he was kind of worried it was coming for him, but he was like, no, I've been careful, it would only be coming after someone who's a complete amateur, and that's Barry. And that they don't even know how to take one out. The only way they've ever known how to properly deal with one is probably just run for your life. The only reason why Barry hasn't come across one so far is because he was lucky. So there was that moment where past Flash and future Flash kind of meet up with each other, and I love that moment where Eobard, still Wells, is telling, like, Cisco's asking all these questions. He's like, but the fact is that you're showing up here with this symbol. Is that with that new symbol, the white symbol that he has? It's like, does that mean that this is what's going to inspire us to make the symbol for you in the future? And then Wells is like, telling Cisco to be quiet, and he tells Barry to stop talking because, the more he talks, the more he's going to change the future. Basically, he ends up telling Barry, saying tachyons is the way that if Barry wants to go faster, tachyons is the key. Rather than really helping Barry, he puts all the information on a flash drive and gives it to Barry. Basically, the point is for Barry to run back to the past, give them a year to come up with a way to stop the time wraith, because once he pops back into like, his present, then it'll be a year and they'll be ready to take down the time wraith. So he runs, but the time wraith was like catching up to him and was slowing him down. So past Barry helps him out, kicks the wraith out the way, and then the wraith as well as future Barry end up going through the time, go through time, and it's just like past Barry's like, cool. I was like, that was so awesome. And then basically pops back into present day. They're like, oh, Caitlin and Cisco are like, oh, were you even going? He's like, do you know how to kill the wraith? They're like, yeah. And then he pull out like a gun. Cisco shoots it. And then nothing happens. He's like, I thought we did. And then it grabs Barry. And very interestingly enough, it has a very interesting way. It's like draining the life away from you. It looks like it's kind of basically draining away your time. So when it grabbed onto it, strangling him, he was getting older and older, and the life was kind of getting sucked out of his body. And then all of a sudden, Hartley shows up, and he uses like his gloves to kill it. Basically, they were kind of attacking it on the wrong frequency. And then even Barry's kind of like, what? Kind of looked at the Hartley situation. Apparently, Hartley's kind of a good guy now because of whatever Barry did in the past. And so basically, he's like, yeah, well, I'm going to go off and have dinner with my parents. It's like, okay. So far, that looks like that's the only thing that changed. Nothing too drastic. So very interesting. He was able to access the information on the kind of flash drive. And, it's a full-on formula, to help him run faster. There's even a conversation with Wells, or to Wells, because, he's still looking for Jesse, but Jesse, he can't, he's like, he makes a joke. He's like, I can find talking gorilla, but I can't find my own daughter. And, Barry tries to comfort him and being like, why you did what you did. You were just trying to protect your daughter, and no one can blame you for that. You were being a father. He's like, at the end of the day, basically, we have to hope that everything we're doing is that you're making the right call with every decision you make. That's all you can hope for. I can't wait to see like what exactly he does to get that formula. I had brought it up in the Supergirl episode that I'd hope that this episode ends with him popping into the Supergirl universe, but then I forgot. I kind of ended up remembering after I'd already recorded that apparently that whole Flash Supergirl thing is supposed to be a standalone. I hope they do reference it on the Flash. I hope at some point, even if it's like, before the finale or around the time of the finale, he ends up going to Supergirl's world. I do hope that happens, but most likely it won't, because that's supposed to be kind of a standalone thing, so it might not ever be referenced. I hope they do, but you never know. Now moving on to this week's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which was very interesting because we learned see more of Mac's personal life, specifically between him and his brother. We found out about his parents' situation too. They kind of got, shipped off to a home. And basically, there's a little bit of animosity between Mac and his brother. Because, Mac's never really been there, obviously because he's been off, working for S.H.I.E.L.D. But, he told his brothers, probably his family too, is that he works at an insurance agency, and him and his brother, like, they bond over being, mechanical guys. They spend their time working on bikes and stuff like that. So that was kind of like a bonding experience between the two. Well, basically, Coulson kind of brings Mac in, even though Mac wanted to take time off, just because it's like, S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't what it was for him anymore because he lost, like, two of his closest friends, Bobby and Hunter, since they're no longer S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. It's like, he's friends with everyone else, but obviously Hunter and Bobby, they all have history. It goes back further than his time with S.H.I.E.L.D. Or does it? Oh, yeah, definitely, because especially with Hunter, so, I don't know, they had history, so it's kind of hard to, press forward without them. Basically, there's these guys known as the Watchdogs. They're basically kind of like a group that they're kind of extremists who don't believe, obviously, in humans. A lot of people are like that, but these guys, they ended up using this, I forgot what the material was known as, but basically they imploded a building, which, like, on that... Once again, a little messed up for me to say, but that looked pretty awesome when that building imploded. I love at the scene when, like, Mac is like, so do you want me to bring some of this debris back? Basically, it was all shrunken down to, like a giant ball of, like, concrete and stuff. And he's like, do you want me to bring this back? And Fitz is like, oh, you've been working out or something? Because that weighs like 100,000 pounds. And Mac is kind of like, so that's a no. Interesting things pop up, relationship wise in this episode. We have, what I mean is between the characters, we have Daisy and Mac, a little differences of opinions about how to handle the whole watchdog situation. Cause Daisy's like, let's just grab some rando and like, essentially not quite saying this, but let's kind of basically whatever means necessary, beat the crap out of them until we get the information we need. And basically, Mac is kind of against it. He's like, is that who we are? We're supposed to be there, like, to help the people, not just... We don't know if they're, like, these people who might be on the forums might be running their mouths. There's no guarantee that they had anything to do with the bombing, which was an ATC building, obviously. But he's like, maybe they never had anything to do with it, and we're just up there, going to just harass people like that. And Daisy's like, if it means saving other people's lives, then yeah. She ends up taking Fitz with her, and she kind of scares the guy that they're getting information from. And you even kind of see Fitz look at her kind of like a little worried, because it does seem like Daisy does seem to act a little differently in this whole situation because of, like, the world turning against, being against them. That there's these people who want who consider them freaks and want them kind of think they're better off dead. So it does seem like she acts a little scarier because she was in his car and she was using her powers and shattering the glass, and she's like, I don't want to hurt you, so give us the information we need. And it's kind of like, wow. Then we also have Gemma basically, learning how to shoot, because basically she's tired of feeling weak because she's always being protected, first by Will, and he ended up dying. Fitz almost died, obviously trying to help her with the whole Will situation. Plus, other things have happened to him because he's wanted to protect Gemma. So, plus, she also brings up the Andrew situation because she let Andrew out of that container to, because she couldn't fight the people that were after her. Andrew ended up getting loose and he ended up killing a whole bunch of Inhumans. Those lives she feels like are on her shoulder. It's her fault, so she's feeling guilty about it. She's like, I'm literally the only woman on this team who can't kill anyone with my bare hands, so guns are kind of my only option. And basically May's trying to tell her it's not her fault. And May brings her in on what she's kind of been doing as a side thing, and that's been looking for Andrew. But Gemma kind of explains that May had been looking for Andrew the wrong way. She's thinking of, like, where would Andrew hide? Where would Andrew go? When she should be thinking, where would Lash go? Because he's acting on pure instinct. The pure instinct of, basically hunting down other Inhumans. And basically, Gemma asks her, like, what are you going to do when you find him, May? May's like, I'm going to kill him. Gemma's like, there's that whole Creel situation we found out about, like, 2 episodes ago, where, there's a possible cure because Lash hasn't fully gone through all of his transformation. There's still time to save him. But May is like, Gemma, don't give me hope. I don't want hope. Because she's held out on hope, so long, hoping that Andrew could change, hope will do nothing but, essentially, basically having hope will do nothing but break her if this doesn't work. If you try giving a cure to Andrew and it doesn't work, it's going to break her, and she probably doesn't know whether she'll be able to keep going on afterwards. And we also have Lincoln and Coulson. Coulson got Lincoln's evaluation, doesn't like the results. Basically, it told him what he already knew, that basically Lincoln's not there to fight for S.H.I.E.L.D. He's there because of Daisy. And he doesn't believe in what they're doing, but Lincoln's like, I'm here now. He's like, you don't follow orders. You kind of let your temper get the best of you. There's the situation with Lash, and there was a situation with Creo a couple episodes ago. You just kind of go berserk, and you just kind of go full all out against people. So he's like, basically, if you want to be a part of this team, you have to learn how to follow orders and stuff like that. So there was a moment later on in the episode they kind of bond. I mean, not necessarily bond, just get a little closer. And, as a subordinate and a superior officer, because basically Coulson ordered Lincoln to kill Blake. He's like, basically go full force, and then Lincoln's like, no, I can't. are you sure? He's like, that's an order. And then Lincoln does it, but he doesn't do a killing shot. He does a shot that would have just wounded him, but sees that the whole thing was a hologram. And Coulson was like, yeah, usually Blake, yeah, he could tell it was a hologram because for one, he wasn't moving and he was lagging a little bit too. And besides, usually Blake would cut you off while you're talking. So he's like, but Coulson noticed that he didn't do a lethal shot anyway too. But he's like, it takes, it takes a good soldier to basically follow orders, even if you may not see what your commanding officer is seeing. Kind of almost like you have to take a leap of faith. You have to trust that he's doing the right thing. That you have to sometimes do the wrong thing to do the right thing. Mac's brother ended up finding out, because he ended up following Mac to their mission. He ended up seeing, Mac and finding out that Mac works for the ATC, S.H.I.E.L.D. And especially that he also works with Inhumans, because his brother actually kind of agrees with the Watchdogs. Comes and looks at him like, no, Inhumans, they're freaks. Don't trust them. You're working alongside those freaks. And he's like, no, they're just people. These are people that are being hurt and hunted down and being discriminated against, not monsters or freaks. They're just regular people like you. Yeah, they have powers, but that doesn't change who they are. And the Watchdogs had mistakenly, during that mission, that was supposed to be just kind of an just watch how things go. Basically they saw Daisy using her powers, but they, but she was doing it from afar, and they just assumed it was Mac who had those powers. On that mission, Fitz even got some of that material that they used to implode the building. He even got some of that on his neck. They were able to get it off though, because initially the solution that they had made didn't work. It slowed it down, but it didn't completely get rid of it. But they were eventually able to get rid of it. But Mac ended up being in the house with his brother, and he's kind of teaching. It's kind of interesting because he's teaching his brother how to think tactically. He's like, okay, this is what we're going to do. He's like, have you ever fired an assault rifle before? He's like, no, I haven't. He's like, okay, just keep it straight. Don't shoot yourself and don't shoot him. Shoot anyone. Shoot anything that moves. Just don't shoot yourself and don't shoot me. And it kind of worked. They've worked as a pretty good team. I even like that moment where Mac puts that hatchet on top of the shotgun, and he's like, shotgun axe. It's like, was that even necessary? Don't know, but it looks pretty badass. You got your close range and your mid to long range, so that was kind of cool. It kind of, his brother kind of saw Mac in a different light. He's like, this is what my brother does on a regular basis. Yeah, he's like, your bro, he's good at what he does. He's kind of my partner. He's like, he's a good partner. It's like, I'm glad to have him. I'm just glad to have him watching my back. And he even brings up the fact is he calls him Alfie, and Daisy's like, Alfie? He's like, yeah, that's his name. She's like, I cannot wait for him to get better so I can make fun of him for this. His brother's like, what does he go by? And then she goes, Mac. He goes, that's what I'm called. I guess like everyone calls his brother Mac, so it's just something he decided to go by. I guess to feel a little bit closer to his brother. So that's anytime people call him Mac, he's probably thinking of his brother. So that was kind of sweet. And then at the very end, we find out that basically the whole Watchdog situation was actually backed by Malik, because Malik / Hydra used that to get what appears to be a nuclear weapon. So that's not a good sign. Now moving on to this week's episode of iZombie, which was pretty interesting. A lot of stuff happened where we basically have Liv, and she ended up eating the brain of a stripper, because Peyton had gotten a call from the stripper, because this stripper wanted to turn on her boyfriend who has a connection to Mr. Boss. But she ended up dying before she can give Peyton that information. It's like, okay, obviously it was her boyfriend who did it. He has a tracking anklet, so we'll be able to find him. Case closed. So Liv didn't really have a reason to eat the brain. But Peyton came to her and asking a favor, because she's like, I need that information because it could help us find one of Mr. Boss's, stash houses. And she eats the brain, and she gets a little bit of an attitude, and she gets I love that whole strip club scene, especially because she's like dancing for Peyton, and Peyton's just super uncomfortable. She's like, "You're my friend, so this makes it awkward." And basically, at one point, Liv is like, "Oh, am I not hot enough for you? Like, don't kind of, I'm hot, you know. Don't, you know, at least show some appreciation." She's like, "Would you feel better if someone else is doing this?" And you could just see Peyton being so uncomfortable about it. I love that scene. Where's that? It's the stripper that's kind of had a side thing with Nick. Basically, she was in there just like crying her eyes out. She's like, and they're like, "Spit it out." Basically, she was crying and having a fit because she didn't want her grandmother to find out that she was an exotic dancer. That's what she was tripping about. Not the fact that she was a possible murder suspect, more so that her grandma was going to find out that she was an exotic dancer. I thought that was hilarious. What ended up being the case was that the killer was one of the other strippers. Her name was Destiny. Basically, we see that weatherman pop up in this episode too. He's the guy that from it was it like season 1. Basically, it's when Liv had eaten Scotty's brain and she thought she went on this little adventure with him, but it ended up turning out to be all in her head. He's also the one. It's also the episode where she thought she told Major the truth, but that wasn't the case. It was that weatherman again. Basically, you know, him amongst other people, she would steal their credit cards and their identity and use it to buy a lot of crap. I guess they would sell it afterwards. Basically, she was working with a guy named Pablo who's connected to one of the stash houses, because him and Nick kind of go hand in hand. And basically, Destiny killed the lady that's dead because she was going to turn on Nick. And by turning on Nick, that meant turning on Pablo, her man. So that's why she killed her. I mean, you gotta admit, I mean, it was messed up, but at least in some twisted sense, you can, it's like, oh, that's a loyal girlfriend for you. Not the type of loyalty you necessarily want, but I mean, that's how it is. They were able to take down one of Mr. Boss's stash houses, which led to Blaine's two cronies. I can't never remember his name. It's Scotty's twin brother, obviously. To ask dude with the eye patch who doesn't talk to scratch him, basically make him into a zombie. Basically, Blaine had told them that, you know, if anything happens to him, not to act, you know, that stay, you know, lay low. But, you know, with Mr. Boss taking a blow like this, they felt like now was the opportune time to strike. And the reason why they're doing it now is because Blaine isn't dead. Whatever was in that cure, it did cure him, but it messed with his memory, so he forgot a lot of stuff. Like, he doesn't even remember who he was, who he is. He doesn't even remember being a zombie anymore because he was being examined by Ravi, and he's like, what do you mean human again? Being undead. He's like, this doesn't make any sense. Liv is thinking he's faking, but Ravi's like, no, he's not faking. This is just the side effect of the cure that he took. He doesn't remember anything. Then you have that whole angle where Liv is still a little upset about Drake, and you know, she finally decides to go to his mom and confront him, and there she learns the truth about Drake being an undercover cop. And at the same time, we have Ravi. You know, throughout the episode, he's piecing it together because he saw the picture where Blaine and Major were together. Plus that with the whole, you know, dog situation, because he saw a picture of one of the victims of the Chaos Killer, and he saw a dog that looked like Minor, the dog that they had. And it's like, it came into their lives around a time that its owner went missing, and he reappeared after, you know, the time Major let him go, quote unquote, returned him. But, you know, Robbie's like, oh, that's totally Minor. Maybe you came across the Chaos Killer and you didn't realize it. Major being him, it's like, just ignore. He's like, no, it's okay. No, you're looking too much into it. Because basically, Ravi had earlier seen him, you know, put away a safe, you know, had a safe, and he was kind of acting a little dodgy about it because Ravi wanted one too. He's like, can I put some of my stuff in there? He's like, no. So Ravi ended up, you know, kind of spraying it and seeing all the different, you know, where Major's fingerprints had been. And basically, he tried the different combinations, and he ended up opening the safe and finding the proof he needed that, you know, Major is the Chaos Killer. And he ends up confronting him, and like, you know, Major's trying to explain. He's like, it's not like this. It's like, you're taking out zombies. What am I supposed to think? You know, what does it mean for live? And then he's like, don't know, it's not like that, right? And then before he can explain it, like, the stress of it activates his zombieism, and he starts turning into a zombie. But, you know, before he could, Ravi shoots him with the stuff that he uses to knock out people. So I don't know, I hope, you know, Ravi get like that Major gets an opportunity to explain himself to Ravi. Not that just Ravi simply continues believing him to do this for the battery. I hope he gets to explain himself next episode. You know, that he is doing this for Liv because, you know, he's being kind of blackmailed by Max Rager. Which I totally forgot that at the beginning of the episode we saw Rita. She did in fact get scratched. It's like, there's no way she got it at, like, you know, just not, you know, it could have easily been her getting knocked around, you know, the reason why she was all bloody, but it's like, no, she got scratched or bit or whatever, so she is a zombie. She broke into Liv's apartment to get brains, but she was taken by the guy who works for her dad, so obviously her dad has her. What that mean? I wonder, what does that mean? Like, you know, that is his daughter, but does that mean he's going to treat her any differently? Now that she's a zombie, is she a test subject, or is he actually going to try and find a cure for her? I don't know. I feel like being the way he is, being the uncaring father he is, because he left her in that situation, he's totally going to use her as an experiment. He's going, I love you, baby, but, you know, business is business kind of thing. So, but that's really all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy a good day, and goodbye.